This week, we see constant movement. The Union is making multiple moves to begin the reconstruction of the nation, from what to do with the rebels to the freed slaves. The rebels are trying to consolidate their army, from increasing manpower to strengthening the command of the armies. This isn't to say the battlefields are empty, as Longstreet goes to war once more, and the chase of the Chesapeake reaches its conclusion. The first thing this week is from the Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia. Secretary of War James Seddon has a problem on his hands. The rebel army is twice its size on paper. In President Davis's report to Congress, he delivered the sentiment of Seddon. The main killer of the armies isn't battle or disease, but desertion. The armies of Northern Virginia, Tennessee, etc. need more men, and the best way to get it is to change the draft law, to lower the exemptions and remove the substitutions who are most likely to desert. Now, for the Union, Lincoln isn't worried about manpower. Well, at least not at this exact moment. Instead, the question on his mind is reintegration. To this end, he passed a general presidential pardon on the 8th. All it required was a cessation of hostilities to the government and the recitation of an oath.
I, Jonathan Teagan, do solemnly swear in presence of Almighty God that I will henceforth faithfully support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Union of the States, thereunder. That I will in like manner abide by and faithfully support all acts of Congress passed during the existing rebellion with reference to slaves, so long and so far as not repealed, modified, or held void by Congress or by decision of the Supreme Court. That I will, in like manner, abide by and faithfully support all proclamations of the President made during the existing rebellion, having reference to slaves, long and so far as not modified or declared void by decision of the Supreme Court. So help me God.
Once 10% of the population of a seceded state has made this oath, the state will be readmitted into the Union. This is all good stuff, though some find it too gentle and others too harsh, such as politics. But does it really work? On the 14th, the widow of General Benjamin Helm, double commander of the Orphan Brigade, is in the White House and recites the oath. This widow is Emil Todd Helm, the half-sister of Mary Todd Lincoln. While the Lincolns mourned the loss of Benjamin Helm in private, they made Emil's oath very public, hoping to incite others to follow her lead. The very same day, we see the Battle of Bean Station in Tennessee. Last week saw Knoxville liberated from General Longstreet's siege. And this week, we follow the pursuit of the rebels by Federal General Shackelford. Union cavalry is coming at Bean Station, and when James learns they're isolated, he wishes to assault them. The 14th, we see the men under Longstreet's command, his corps and Buckner's division, under General Bershaw Johnson, begin the march in the pouring rain. The slow march is interrupted by a Union outpost, depriving the Confederates of the element of surprise. When the Southern regiments reach the Union, it is in a defensive position, with mounted infantry stationed in a hotel, regiments in reserve, and prepared cavalry. The initial advance under Longstreet is disastrous, with heavy Union fire holding the 12,000 Confederates at bay. Only through dogged determination and numbers were the rebels able to advance. The Confederates win the day, losing 900 men to Shackelford's 700. They tried to encircle the Federals, instead were badly bloodied. 16th, full General Joseph E. Johnston took command of the Army of Tennessee from General William J. Hardee. Johnston is no one's first choice. He hasn't held field command since the Peninsula Campaign, where he proved to match McClellan, and how cautious both were. Lieutenant General Leonidas Polk, who is a former subordinate of Bragg, is given the Army of Mississippi as a consolation prize. Why would Davis do this, especially when he hates Johnston?
The president detests Joe Johnston for all the trouble he has given him, and General Joe returns the compliment with compound interest. His hatred of Jeff Davis amounts to a religion. With him, it colors all things.
I know a far bigger and more famous Civil War YouTuber, Atun-Shei, is a fan of Johnston's command. While I don't want to start anything with a man who has shot a revolver at someone, I must disagree with his assessment of Johnston as the one sane man. His actions at Bull Run were mostly directing men, and since then he hasn't won a victory. At Williamsburg, he failed to repulse McClellan. At Seven Pines, his aggressive plan was overly complicated, though in fairness it seems everyone's strategies were. Then there was his role in the Vicksburg campaign, and oh my god did he fail, being routed multiple times and leaving the city of Vicksburg to be starved, or from the strategic forward-thinking officer he was described as. The only reason he was looking at the theater-sized map and not the battlefield one was because he liked retreating. I could go further, but I believe I've made my point. While I don't like Bragg, Johnston doesn't install much confidence either. Then, for the final day of this week, on the 17th, we see the end of the Chesapeake affair. The stolen ship fled through the day and nights trying to find safe harbor in the Canadian colonial waters. On the 14th, it was in Nova Scotia on the La Have River. we see something through the piercing night sky. It's the USS Malvern. The crew turn off the lights of the Chesapeake and hide behind a small island. They are lucky and able to make an escape. This unnerves the crew, and some leave the vessel at the very next stop, and good for them to get out early because it's another close call. The ship's luck runs out on the 16th because as it was stopping for coal, the USS Malvern got close. As the Union ship approached, most of the remaining crew fled. Only 3 men remained. George Wade, a Canadian who killed the American sailor, and 2 others from Nova Scotia. On the 17th, the USS Malvern and USS Dakota are in Halifax Harbor with the Chesapeake, demanding British extradition of the criminals and approval of the arrest. George Wade is about to be sent over to the U.S. when 2 men show up to his cell. The important physician of Halifax, William J. Ullman, and Alexander Keith Jr. Wade flees from captivity and the British search for him, but can't catch him. The British realize that they need to do something, put out warrants for the rest of the crew. But when it goes to trial, they are found innocent on technicalities. Instead of drumming up support for the Confederacy, it dwindles in Canada. The letter marquee used by Wade to justify this is found to be uncredible, and most people see the capture of the Chesapeake as an act of privacy and turn against the Confederacy. It's time the Con supporters, though, grow even more deep in their convictions. The final thing this week is a glimmer of hope for the recently freed Americans. The Freedmen's Aid Society was set up in 1859 to create educational opportunities for emancipated individuals, hoping to give them the opportunities denied to them by bondage. The society sent a plan to President Lincoln, which he forwards to Congress to set up a federal Bureau of Emancipation. While nothing comes of it right now, the once radical ideas of integration are now the official policy of the executive. The multicultural future of America is coming. The question now is, how soon before it's realized? Finally, there is Sickles. Though this really isn't about him. Benjamin Wade is a Republican and senator from Ohio. He has been an important figure in the radical faction of the Republican Party, critical of Lincoln's slow movement for progress and also an enemy of Meade, and a friend of Sickles. He used to head the Joint Committee on the Conduct of the War, along with many other high positions. And if the committee is relaunched, he will use it to punish Meade for his unwillingness to prepare the South for an integrated future. He moved to find the General of the Army of the Potomac criminally incompetent, which Lincoln would require to remove him. Was he conspiring with Sickles? Lord, no. Were they sharing information with each other? We honestly don't know. That's where the week ends, and let us look to the state of the war on a grand level. First, the East has become docile. On the 11th, the Army of the Potomac found its winter camp in Northern Virginia, as did the rebel Army of Northern Virginia. In the West, the Army of Tennessee under General Joseph Johnston has also found its camp in Dalton, Georgia. The forces of East Tennessee are consolidated under General James Longstreet, who is also camping. The war is going into winter quarters, and the frost that covers the would-be fields of battle is keeping the armies away. Hello, it's the entire Civil Week by Week team here, a phrase that is getting more and more depressing as time goes on. If you liked the video, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're Atun-Shei, please don't hurt me, and I hope to see you next week.